Welcome to Tisha Talks Topics. I am so excited to have Natalya on today, the confidence coach, sharing with us all things about confidence and about her purpose journey. And I'm just so excited that we were finally able to connect and make this happen. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm already messing up. Okay, wait, let's stop. Stop. I don't know. I didn't want to mess.
Hey guys, welcome to Tisha Talks Topics. I am so excited to have Natalya with us today. She is a confidence coach, and we were finally able to connect and conversate about what it really means to live a confident life, and for her to share her purpose journey with us. And so, Natalya, I'm so excited to have you. Can you please share with everyone who you are and what you do, and just tell us more about this confidence thing?
Of course. Well, thank you so much, Miss Tisha, for having me on today. I'm super excited. Just having the opportunity right now to even be a part of this. So as she mentioned, I am a certified confidence coach. And one of the things that I really am passionate about is working with women as they scale from fear to living their most confident life. With what happens is I work with a lot of my clients on finding who they are at their core and them being okay with that and really understanding what confidence is. And as they do that, they start to become these women that are doing these awesome things. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing as a certified confidence coach. In partnership with that, I also have my own podcast as well, which is called the Whole Black Woman Podcast, in which we just talk about all things that relate to women. So you can hear anything from relationships to, what it is about self-love, purpose, all of those things, but really just making sure that everything's rooted, in having our relationship with God and really understanding it from a Christian perspective, but also making sure that we keep everything real and raw.
Yes. Now y'all know I'm here for this. I'm ready. I'm
Yes.
ready. I'm ready. So before we dive into this confidence thing, because I really want to get into that. Can you tell us a little bit about you, like your journey and what brought you to this place of becoming a certified coach?
Of course, yeah. So I start my story in about 2015. So in 2015, I just found myself in pure, I didn't know it at that time, but I was in depression, and I had been sitting in depression for about a year at that time. There were some different circumstances that were going on. I hadn't finished my college degree, so I was kind of beating myself about that. I was like 100 pounds heavier than where I am now. I was living still with my parents. I had just moved back from college, but still living with my parents. And so there were just these like transitional things in my life that I just wasn't happy with. And so I was just at that place where I was like, you know what? Right here, I was supposed to be in this phase of my life, and I don't see that as my reality around. So for me, obviously there was, it took some time, but that was really the motivator that really started to make me start leaning into what did I need to do and really pulling myself out of this funk that I had just found myself in. And with that, I started to do all of these amazing things that, just all of these goals that I had set for myself and had seemed so far to accomplish, I started to accomplish them. And so with that, I started to pay attention to the things that I felt that I needed along the way and wish that I had and I did not have. And so in that, I said, you know what, God, I want to be that for somebody else, right? And so with that, that is really what led me into the confidence coaching. And I always tell people, I say it all the time, I'm okay not even having a title, but I know that for people, they need something to relate to, and confidence just end up being that thing that people related to. And it's been a blessing ever since I started.
Yeah, I can resonate with your story. I know I started my college career like right out of high school, but I didn't finish. And
Mm-hmm,
I had
mm-hmm.
children and I got married. And so I didn't get my bachelor's until in my 30s, and
Okay.
then went on to my master's. But so I can resonate with that. And I understand
Mm-hmm.
how like you're like, there's some stuff I still need to do. But
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about, you said that you didn't know that you were depressed at the time. And I know you have like a bubbly personality. So was it something that like, did other people recognize it, or was it just something you were dealing with inside of you that you knew like I wasn't happy with myself?
You know what? I'm okay. I don't mean to put it on blast, but the church sometimes can be a little stereotypical, and we learn things, especially for those who've grown up in the church. So I've always learned that we're okay, right? Even when you're not okay, you're okay. And so for me, this was non existent. All of this personality was non existent. And so I literally had a routine where I would go to work, come home, and, eat, of course, but then go to my room, sleep all for the rest of the day, wake up, and then that was my cycle, right? And so I didn't think anything was wrong because, let me not say I didn't think anything was wrong. I didn't know it was depression or something bigger because it was just like, well, you're just going through something, right? Without really putting a name to it. And so I just thought this was natural, but I was like, it doesn't feel good, right? So it has to be something deeper. And it was just like, I don't know what it is. And so it wasn't until I started reaching to outside outlets that I was kind of able to put a name to it and put what was going on with me.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know like we're veering a little off topic, but I find that a lot of people um, don't really, I would say, don't really want to own it as
Mhm.
maybe being depressed, and you put like a lot of mask on it and not really dealing with it. So I just found it interesting when you said I didn't really know it was depression at the time, but I knew something was off, and I feel like a lot of us can relate to that, like not
Yes.
really knowing how to coin it, but knowing
Yes.
that like it wasn't it, like.
No, I said this is uncomfortable. And I mean, that's a good place to be in because that is what ultimately can fuel you, right? To be, to take the steps that you need to. But like I said, if I come, especially being in a household with my parents, they still won't, if I said something now about it, they would be like, no, not depression, right? Because it's like it was like we're defeating, right? Or we're saying that we're taking on something, but it's like, no, there's a reality of what goes on. I can overcome it, but there's still a reality of what is actually I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. So what was that turning point? What was that light bulb for you that was like, okay, I got to move forward. There's something I have to do.
So, I mean, sometimes my friends, they make jokes and be like, I'm a little shallow with myself. I'm very hard on myself. So sometimes I look at things and it's the smallest thing that makes me like, next thing you know, I didn't accomplish 10 things because it was something to me. So I had started seeing a life coach. And so she was helping me through some stuff that I was going through, just dealing with family and things. But I had just really got to the highest weight that I was willing to. I was almost 25 years old at the time, or I was turning 25, and I was 150 pounds heavier from where I am. And I just did not think that that was a good look for me. And so that was really, it plays all together. That was really what made me start having the different changes in the other areas of my life, because as I started to discipline myself in my weight loss, I started to discipline myself in the other areas of my life. And so that's where my relationship with God grew. That's where obviously I went back to school. It was just like I started to feel better about myself outwardly. So it was like I started to pay attention to myself more inwardly, because those layers, the things that I had put on as far as putting everything into my weight loss, was now being removed. And so now I was able to see myself at face value and then actually start to pay attention to what was really going on the whole time.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
That is awesome. So can you tell us what it means to be
Of
confident?
course. Yeah. So I so it's funny when I work with my clients, I always have them tell me what their conversation of confidence is, or what their definition of confidence is. And so then I come back and I make sure to tell them that confidence is really just trusting in your own abilities at face value. Like, it's so simple, and really being aware of the things that you may not be so great at, but being okay with that as well, right? So being able to accept yourself and operating in that acceptance 100%, that is total confidence. As I explain to my clients all the time, there's three different layers of confidence, but the most important that is fluid between the three layers is the internal confidence, how you feel about yourself, how do you show up, and really, again, just being okay with who you are, who God has created you to be, who you've been placed on this earth to be, and operating in that at all times.
How do you get to that place? Because I know um like when you're a confident person, it's
Mhm.
difficult to tell, well, for me, it has been difficult to teach or get another person to be confident in themselves, right? How do you get to that place? Like how do you get someone to be confident in themselves?
Oh, so that's the fun thing about that's what coaching is for, because it is a process. But really, the first thing that I do is we have to peel back any negative belief systems.
Mm,
So, and the thing about any type of coaching, life coaching, confidence coaching, whatever type of coaching, it can be very fine line with like therapy and some issues that need to be dealt with in therapy. But really, the first thing that I have my clients do is we peel back layers of their belief system and why do they even believe these things. And a lot of times when we actually sit back and realize why they even believe some of these things, it's like so irrational, right? And so as we do that, we start to progress and we start to be goal oriented. And so what I have them do, my process that I have found to work is basically we start to say, okay, what goals are you wanting to accomplish at this point of your life? And then we work together so they can start to make those strides, because that's human nature. As you start to accomplish things, it's automatic that you become more confident. And even in the things that you don't accomplish, it's like you start to build this like muscle memory, right? And this muscle where you're able to be more consistent and more persistent in things. And so it's just, again, it's about really being fluid. But for me, it's really about working with my clients on their goals and us being very strategic, planning out what it is that they can do. And as they start to do these things, they start to see themselves at face value.
mm-hmm. So would you say that confidence is something that is built, like you build it?
Definitely built.
Yeah.
Definitely it can be something built. Again, it's really about, and which is another thing that it can be used fluid with. If some people don't want to use the word confidence, you can just simply say having faith in yourself, right? And so as you continue to have faith in yourself, what do? You've been doing little things and you say, you know what, I can make it through this. I can go through that situation and still make it out alive, right? And you're starting to have more faith in yourself or confidence. And so you just continue to persist on.
Mm, I love that. I think that sometimes when you are a confident person and you find yourself with someone who isn't as confident,
Mhm.
I think that sometimes they can feel overshadowed.
Mhm.
And as a confident person, sometimes it's hard to know how to support someone who isn't as confident. Um,
Right.
what advice would you give for someone in that situation? They want to be a better support, to someone who's still working or growing in that area.
So, not to like maybe like the lecturer of this, but really understanding first, there's three levels of confidence. So as I mentioned, the internal, but there's also the external. So that is the way you look, right? And so that's a lot of times what people allude their confidence to. Oh, she's a pretty girl, so she must be confident, right? And then we have the lifestyle layer of confidence, which is the car you drive, the job you have, do you have a house and a home? Are you married? All of those things. But when we're talking about supporting those around us who are really not confident, sometimes you have to, I say the first thing is to be accepting of where they are at and really start to reinforce as a supporter the things that you acknowledge or that you see that they are good at. Or that they do well. And so I think that as you do that, you will start to, number one, start to feed into them some positivity, but also just learn how to be patient with people, because people are on their own journey, and people could be like me, where it's not necessarily they're not confident, they're just going through something that's hiding the confidence, right? And it's going to take the time to allow them to reveal that again, or to, come into their true selves. And so really patience, but start to be that supporter, be that reminder, be the person that comes to them and being like, okay, what do we need to do? Sometimes you have to tug people and pull them with you, right, to be in their greater self or to walk in their greatness. And that's okay. But for me, even with my friends, when they're not as confident in an area, it could be with starting their business, really just motivating them, being the person to show them and explaining, but also saying, I'm going to walk through this with you.
Mm, that's
Yes.
great advice. I gotta follow some of that.
You too, girl, in some areas still.
Yeah. So I guess kind of switching. we're doing a series on embracing your purpose, right?
Mm,
And so being a confidence coach, I know that is a part of your purpose. And
yes.
a lot of times as we're stepping out to walk in our purpose, we hit like road bumps and different challenges. And so I wondered if you could share with us some of those challenges that maybe you have encountered as you've started to pursue or as you have been pursuing your purpose, and what kind of steps you've taken to overcome those things.
Of course, of course. So right now, I am going through everything you're mentioning, and right now, I notice my biggest thing is in my mind, I think a lot, but I think what my purpose is, or I thought it would look like this, and then God comes and says, mm-mm, "That's not what it is." And so it's really about trusting in myself. I know for me right now, I'm realizing that a lot of the things that I've worked through that they still come up for me. So sometimes there's this like fear of rejection that comes up. Um, so many different things that come up, but rejection is the one that's coming up for me right now. And so really it's like you accomplish things, but then you're like, okay, I accomplished it here, can I accomplish it here though, right?
Right.
And so for me right now, it's really about having to feed myself about what I've done. And I'm not going to lie, the thing that is working for me right now is really just about, I'm going to do it anyway, like I'm just going to do it. And
Right.
then on the back end, if anything happens, okay, I'll handle it then. But right now, I just truly believe that as long as you're doing it with pure intent, you're doing it with God, that's it. Like you're going to be okay, right? All things literally work out for our good. And so right now, that is, it's not the best advice, but that's what's going for me. And that's where I am seeing the most progress, is just stepping out there anyway, despite what my mind says, despite what the enemy tries to feed me. Um, that's what it is.
Yeah, I love that because I see your picture in the back. It says, "Let your faith be bigger than I want to
Oh,
see your fears."
yes, yes. This,
I would say for me too, I think that um, it just really the purpose journey has really been a stretch of faith,
yeah.
right? And every step, just because you accomplish this, you're still kind of like, well, can I do this thing? Because this is different. You know, the steps are different. And so I think that is a great answer. And for even me as a podcaster, I was telling my brother the other day, I'm like, if it wasn't for podcasting, I probably wouldn't be reaching out to people.
Right,
So
right.
every time, I have to get ready. I'm like, okay, you're gonna get on this call and you're gonna do this. And so would you say that a part of your purpose journey experience has been just pressing forward despite the fears and despite the things that naturally you may just want to do?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's like me all day. I am very, shouldn't, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I'm very independent. I want things how I want them. And if they're not how I want them, there's sometimes an issue. And so learning to be submissive to, it seems like that's all you deal with, right? When things are not, if that's my issue, then it seems like all of the situations, all of the fights, all of the battles are always around the things that I have trouble with. And so I'm like, why? But I did a podcast episode, and the guest that I had on the show made a really good point. And she was saying we don't want to acknowledge even the bad times, how they can be a part of our purpose, right? And so that's, for me, that was an aha moment for me, but something that I'm like, you know what? It's so true, because that is how I can even sit here on this call, right? And say all of the things that I've been and give the bit of advice that I'm giving because of those things. And I can say right now, I'm like, yeah, I'm walking in purpose by, being on here. But it was like, well, what gave you the experience though? And how can we discount that and say that that wasn't a part? And so really just getting clear on even the negative parts can be a part of your purpose, and being okay with it, but also giving yourself grace. Because I'm a person, I know my family, friends, they have looked at me and they've been like, you're really hard on yourself, because I have these goals that I have to accomplish, right? But even in those times that I fall short, just, being okay and just saying, okay, you had a day, that's okay, and get back on it the next.
Yeah, definitely. Our experiences really shape who we are
Mhm.
and set us apart, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of times we discount like, okay, I went through X, Y, and Z, and yeah, that wasn't so good. But that is really a part of my story and a part of how I landed where I'm at right now. And
Yes.
so just embracing that part, that's a pill to swallow.
Definitely, it is. It is. I recently I have a social club that is local in my area, and one of the ladies, she had something traumatic happen to her, and I just I was I was so happy that I actually had the same traumatic experience. And so therefore I could go and comfort her in that and genuinely be like, I understand what it means to be in this situation, right? And so because of that, I said, if that was the only reason that I went through that was in this moment to tell this woman I understand her, I'll take it. I didn't take it then, but I'll take it now. So
Yeah, you look back on a lot of stuff and you're kind of like, okay, so that needed to happen for that to happen. For how about me to grow in this space, or for me to get super uncomfortable that it was completely frustrating for me that I had to move forward.
yes.
And so I love what you said, just trusting God that He has created us. He's created us with purpose. And so as we follow Him, we're on the path to
Yes.
whatever it is that He's called us to, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you another question.
Okay.
How did you know that confidence coaching was a part of your purpose?
I didn't. Okay. So let me tell you why listening to people around you matters. So my friends, they were like, I kept telling them, I was like, I just want to do this. Right. And so I was just like, I want to help women, blah, blah, blah. And so they were like, well, it sounds like you want to be a life coach. And I was like, that's a life coach. I was like, I just knew it was more. I was like, what? He's like, don't you dare. And so I'm big on not being just another whatever. Right. And so I was like, life coach. But it was funny because as that happened, I started to receive information about confidence coaching. It was just like it appeared in front of me. And so I researched it and I was looking, and number one, I had never heard of confidence coaching, but then I was like, wait, let me see. So I actually read through it and learned about what it was. And I was like, that's my journey. Like that literally is everything that I've been through. And I said, okay, that's what I stand for, because I never want to be in front of someone talking or trying like this moment and not able to show up most authentic and transparent. And so that was my biggest thing. I don't want to show up as something I'm not. But I said, this is something that I know I've been through, that people know I've been through and can vouch for. And so with that title, I was able to, it was just like it appeared in front of me, literally. It was like, oh, you know how sometimes on your phone, they hear it, and then the next thing you know, you see it on your Facebook.
Yeah.
And so like, that was literally what happened. And I was like, wait, confidence coaching. And I read it and I was like, oh, okay. And the rest is history.
Yeah. I was looking at your website, which I love, by the way. And you just had like a list of so many ways that a confidence coach can help someone else. And I was wondering if you could share just some of those things that going through a confidence coach will help you progress in.
Yeah, so it could be, I always speak to my experiences, but with my clients, it can be anything from, I had a client who worked for a Fortune 100 company, and she was the only woman of color who worked amongst white men. And so her thing was, I just need to be confident enough to show up in my meetings as my authentic self. And
Wow.
so we worked on just really, it was her elevator pitch. But so when she walked in the room, she said, I didn't want my story to be attached to me being a woman of color and making it out of the hood and all of this. She said, I just wanted people to know me for who I am. Right. And so really working through that. But as we worked through it, she found out it was like a lot of stuff that was rooted from her childhood of why she handled things. So really it's just about being an awareness. So it can be anything from that situation. I have people who have social anxiety, or clients who have social anxiety. And so they're just not confident in how they show up in that, frame of work. I also have clients who they're new to the area and they're just not confident about being new to the area. It's a little different now because things are virtual. So it
Right.
may be a little easier, but it's a range of things. Anything that you do not feel that you can not, or you're going to show up less than your best self in, I would say it's okay to reach out to a confidence coach to support you in that.
Yeah, I was thinking about as I was preparing for this podcast, I was thinking about how like confidence has played such a big role in me even starting my purpose journey.
Mm,
Because a lot of times I think when you're stepping out in purpose, it can be an unknown space.
yes.
And so, and there are a lot of things that you're going to have to do that's going to take you outside of your comfort zone,
Yes.
and just being confident enough in yourself. But even I think when you don't have that confidence in yourself, confidence and confident enough in God, you know,
Mm,
that He's going to take you there. And
yes.
their like purpose and confidence, like you need it to,
Yes. Yes.
to really fully show up, you know, in that space. And so I love what you're doing. That's why I was like, yes, we got
Thank you.
have to talk about this because they go hand in hand.
Mm.
Um, and one of the things that I say a lot is like done is better than perfect.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's so much because done will show you that you can do it. Like you
Yes.
may not do it perfectly. You might have to like adjust and grow, and we're all growing, but you have to take those steps. And a lot
Yes.
of times it's the confidence, you know, that you need to just take like that first baby step.
Yes.
And so I would
Definitely.
say, what advice would you give to anyone who is struggling with taking some baby steps?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the first thing because I'm so raw and I tell my clients, I'm like, you'll have to excuse me sometimes, but literally get out of your head. And I know it's so easier said than done, but really get out of your head because you will be the thing that stops you. And you'll look up and realize so much time has passed that you could have done X, Y, and Z. And as Miss Tisha says, you know, it's done is better than perfect. Really being okay with that and knowing that if anything needs to be fixed, corrected, you can go back later and do that. But let's get it done first. Doesn't mean you don't put your best foot forward, right? It doesn't mean any of that. It's just saying instead of procrastinating, which I've done, and you know, trying to do this perfect level of achievement, it's like, no, that's not a reality. Another thing is to get people around you, a tribe who supports you and feeds upon your greatness. Because I've had that too, where the circle around me, they were not most uplifting and supporting. So I started to take on literally their mindset on things. And so it was just like, I even had a group of friends one time where we're all single, but they kind of had like this, like, oh, all men are evil type mindset. And then I started to take it on. But then it was like, well, how do I have that when I'm believing for a husband at the same time, right? So I need to get around other people who believe like I believe. So I know that that's a big thing too, is really getting a good tribe around you. And whatever I don't want to say self-love, but whatever it takes for you. So if you need to go, I believe in therapy. I have a therapist. But if it's therapy, of course, anything coupled with, you know, going to God, reading your Bible, whatever that takes and whatever that looks for you, self-help books, make sure you are putting back into you what you are wanting out. So if you're wanting this positivity, if you're wanting this certain lifestyle, make sure you're putting that back into you.
Yes.
Yes.
Mindset is everything. I
Everything.
mean, like, I know it sounds so cliche, but it is like to be just an entrepreneur and even starting a business on your own and not have someone over you telling
Mm,
you what to do. Like there is a whole mindset shift
yes.
has to happen in your thinking, and to even step out. So like, I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Mindset is like everything. You can win so many battles
So many.
here just in your mind.
It's
Like half the stuff that you face
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
all there. And I know I even made a joke to my friend the other day. I said, I almost feel like I failed quarantine because there's so much more that I can do. And then I look up and I said, okay, I just didn't give myself credit in some areas because I have done some great things. But this was like just the one time that I was like, if there was a time that it was fully on me to still get myself up in the morning to keep my routine, you know, it's like this was the time I needed to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I have a question, just because you're talking, this is kind of off topic again,
Of course.
but I just want, are you a firstborn child or an only child?
I'm the baby, but I'm the youngest. So it was like so my siblings are 10 and 12 years apart. So it
Okay.
was like an only child.
Yeah. I've been reading this book about the birth order, and I'm just kind of like, because I have the same thing where like, I don't feel like I've done enough. You really should have been here. What are you doing? Like, and I'm a firstborn. I'm not a firstborn. I have a half brother, but we didn't live together. So I was the only child.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it just shows that some of the characteristics are where you're like really hard on yourself
Yes.
about what you've accomplished. So I just threw that in there. But the other question I wanted to ask you as you were talking was about coaching, because you mentioned having a therapist, which I completely advocate for. One of my good girlfriends is a therapist. Um, but what is the difference between therapy and coaching? Just for the listener and someone trying to figure out, should I go to therapy or should I have a coach or do I need both? How does that work?
Okay, yeah, of course. So when you go, okay, let me say this. When you seek out coaching, it's more of goal oriented or should be goal oriented. And when I mean that is, okay, I have a big presentation coming up in 6 weeks. And so I want to make sure that I'm showing up as my most confident self in that presentation. Or I just moved to a new city and I want to be able to make friends in this area. I'm having some trouble. Those are going to be things that you would go to a coach for. When you go to a therapist, now we're talking about the deep rooted soul. So we're talking about why do you have social anxiety? What happened when you were 12 that, caused you to think this way? So it's more of a deeper level. I know that amongst the African American community, just because of the stigma behind it, a lot of times people are more okay going to coaching just because it's like a softer thing, right? When they in actuality need therapy. So that's why I always just say, make sure that you kind of know what it is you're dealing with, and make sure that you're also going to a credible coach who is honest with you, because sometimes a coach can be taken on things that really need to be dealt with in therapy, and you really are not getting service as yourself. And so that's one thing I do with my clients. I say, okay, this we're going to deal with this, but this part would be therapy. And then if you need me to seek and refer you out, then I will. But we can deal with this here. But other things, you just don't want to do it, especially when things are so important and how deep these things get. You just never want to touch that.
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
that is so that is so good. And there are so many, like you just triggered something in my mind when I think about coaching versus therapy, that therapy tends to really deal a lot with the past,
Mm-hmm.
things that you experienced, and
Yeah.
coaching is more of a forward perspective, like what you want to accomplish and
Yeah.
what you need to get there. But the other thing is, I am like here for it and feeling this whole let's coach and prep for this board meeting and let's coach for these like business, because I just when I'm getting ready to have a partnership call or a meeting, I'm just like in the mirror like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what. And so I think that is so important. And just having come from not necessarily corporate America, but coming from a government kind of state agency where it was in higher education, but there was a lot of white male leadership.
Okay.
And when you tried to move up and go into other places, it was sometimes you didn't, I don't want to say know the language or know necessarily how to show up as an African American woman and not be typecast
Right.
with the way you present yourself. So this is an awesome way to circumvent that and to prepare yourself for those conversations. So
Yeah.
that I'm excited about that right there.
Yes, and know that they can be done in conjunction with each other. It doesn't have to be a choose one. So, for an example, like there's some phases of my therapy journey that my therapist will be like, okay, well, right now we're getting into this. So you may just want to work with this with the coach. And so that's okay. But just again, I just really recommend, because I know how precious, as you've mentioned, our mindset is. And this is all mindset work, whether if it's coaching or therapy. So just really, really, really just making sure you are working with someone who is, number one, honest and not just trying to, collect their fee, but also really invested in your success. And that's one thing that I know I hear a lot from my clients, that they feel like I'm just an invested. So it's like, no, you're not walking into the boardroom. We are, so therefore we need to prep together. So.
Yes, I love this conversation. And my mind is going because I have other things in the works. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to have Natalya come on and talk about some of that. But so before we go though, can you tell everyone how they can reach you, and how they can contact you if they're interested in confidence coaching?
Of course. So my website is natalyamcneal.com. And then I'm also on Instagram at Natalya McNeal. If there are any people who are still on Facebook, it's Natalya McNeal 20. All of those ways you can find me. For whatever reason, just want to email me. It's info at natalyamcneal.com.
And is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with? Any, I guess, like last words or things that maybe we didn't cover that they should really know about either being confident or confident coaching?
One thing I would always say is with confidence, just think of it as the moving finishing line and being okay with that, that you may not arrive where you think that you've arrived, but just be willing and open to this just being an ever evolving process. And just again, with just really, really starting to get comfortable with trusting in who you are, who God created you to be before the foundations of the earth. Just really being okay with that and then just step into that every single day.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I don't have nothing else to say.
Drop the mic.
Yes, yes. Be who you've been called to be. Drop the mic. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with me. I hope that we will be able to collaborate further because, like I said, my mind is just going now. But it's been a great conversation, and thank you for being a part.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad. I appreciate you so much for just being patient with me and working through me and my schedule, but this has been awesome.